Alright you guys, got the old Nova up on a lift today. We're going to attempt to fix more leaks. I think the transmission pan has finally failed on me. It's been sitting in the shop here for a couple of weeks and it's been dripping. If you've been following along, you'll know that I've been fighting this speedometer cable leak for some time. I'm happy to report that seems to be finally fixed. Car sat over there for quite some time, like a couple weeks, and it didn't move, and I did not see any fluid underneath this area on the floor. So that's cool, that seems to be better. However, I think the pan is now leaking. So you can see the fluid's like building up. The story on this is, I had this transmission out a while back, and I had it upside down at my friend's garage. We did the shift kit in it. And I only put right stuff on this pan to put it back on. The transmission was upside down. And I put the right stuff on there and I just set the pan on here and I didn't like squish it down or put pressure on it yet. And we were trying to find all the bolts to put it back on there. And I thought I was missing two because these two for my shifter bracket are different. But I didn't realize it at the time. So we thought we were missing two and we couldn't find them. We thought maybe we left them under the pan, like on the valve body or somewhere. So I ended up lifting the pan back off. They weren't under there, so I had to put it back on. And instead of just fixing it, I just stuck it back on there and I assumed the right stuff would still seal up. And it did last for, I don't know, it's been a year or two now. But it's finally leaking out of here. So we're just gonna tear this all down and put new right stuff on there, seal it back up. Hopefully it's good. So anyways, that's the project for today. Alright guys, so I got the pan off of here last night. It's actually the next day right now. Nothing too catastrophic going on here. That's just crud from the right stuff that was on there. I've been trying to clean it up a little bit. Gonna use a little grinder wheel with the yellow flappy disc, or not flappy disc, I don't know what you call this thing. This little guy, try to clean up the rest of it. But I wanted to make note of what I did here. So this pan was only sealed up with right stuff. There was no gasket. And I've heard a lot of people saying, you know, if something's put on with the right stuff, it's like never gonna come back off, or it's just, it sucks. This was a little rough, but not terrible. It took a little bit of time. So what I ended up doing was I took all the bolts out except for like, where are we at here? Like these, there's like two back here. I left those in. I took every other bolt out, but I just kind of loosened those up a little bit so the pan wouldn't fall off. And then what I had to do was I got this like really thin little gasket scraper. It's pretty flexy. And I just had to start wedging it in here. You have to cut through the right stuff, essentially. So I just wedged it between the pan and the transmission here, all the way around, and just rammed it in there and cut through all the stuff. And I was able to, you know, like, I could reach up, like over the header here like this. You know, I could get through. I was able to, you know, stick it in there everywhere on both sides and just cram it in there and cut through all the right stuff, basically, and then was able to kind of pry down the front and get it to drop, so all the fluid ran out in my pan here. And then I just took those last two bolts out in the back and just kind of wiggled the pan a little bit and it came off. So my thoughts on this are, I mean, if I took all the bolts out, that was not going to come off. The right stuff is stuck on there, and you couldn't like pry it off of there like you could with silicone or something like that. I mean, the transmission pan isn't something you can really pry on a lot. It'll just bend and warp, and you don't want that. So cutting it was the best solution. If you had put something on like an intake or just something thicker, much more stout that you could really leverage on and not have it break necessarily, you could probably still pry it apart if it just had right stuff and no gasket. But that was just kind of my notes on that. it wasn't just going to like pry off of there. There's no way. You have to cut it with something. So just want to throw that out there. Going to clean this up, and I haven't decided yet. I have a brand new, just a regular pan gasket for this that I might use. But I did get another tube of Right Stuff, so I initially was thinking I would just Right Stuff this back on again, but now I don't know. So I'm kind of actually leaning towards just throwing the gasket on it and seeing how that does. I mean, this wasn't too bad to take off, so if the gasket fails, I can just swap it out or take it off and Right Stuff it the next time. So anyways, that's where we're at. I'm going to keep cleaning this up, and we'll slap it back on there. Alright, you guys, got the car off the lift. I cleaned everything up earlier. Put a nice bead of Right Stuff around the transmission pan. I was a little concerned about doing that because it has there's like a ridge on the pan. So what I did is just ran a nice bead just around the middle of the pan on top of that bead, basically. It's like supposed to push up into the gasket if you use one, but ran a nice bead in there, ran some circles around all the bolt holes, and I've heat cycled it once, got it all full of fluids. These spots are kind of old, but that one little drip up there is something else, that's oil. But I filled it with fluid, let it sit on the lift for quite a while, looked for anything seeping out. Nothing seemed to be leaking so far, so I've ran through the gears, heat cycled it, all that good stuff. Nothing's leaking yet. I think we're all right. I put the Right Stuff on, and I kind of basically just torqued the pan bolts down, like not super tight, but you know, just probably 20 foot-pounds or something. I don't think they're supposed to have a lot, just use my ratchet and my elbow torque, you know. And then I let it sit for probably, it's been a few hours, 3-4 hours maybe, and the Right Stuff was pretty, you know, gummy, and it was fairly rubbery and solid, I guess you could say. Before I even put any fluid back in here. So I think we're all good. Gonna go take a test drive right now. Most likely to the gas station because, you know, that's what we do. Obviously we're low on gas. So far so good. We'll see how this turns out. Alright, one more follow-up for you guys. It's now another day later. Fixed the car last night, and I drove it around a little while, like a few miles maybe. Did not notice any drips or leaks at all from the transmission area. But where it was parked last night, this right here, I kind of wiped it up a little bit, but this was the oil spot. There was still leaking some ATF out of somewhere. Put it up on some ramps a little bit ago and was looking. And it kind of looks like it's probably the kickdown cable is where it's actually leaking from right now. The pan looks fine, like I can't really see any obvious spots on the pan itself where it's leaking through, like where the Right Stuff might have failed or something like that. So I think the pan is good now. Speedometer cable seems good, but now the kickdown cable is potentially leaking, so I'm gonna have to go put the car back on jack stands or put it in the air or something and see if I can get in there and figure that out. I don't know if I can clean it up and maybe silicone it or put some Right Stuff around it. Just kind of sucks because if I have to pull that cable out, then a bunch of fluid's going to fall out of there, and I'll have to recapture that hopefully because I don't want to waste it. I just dumped like over a gallon of new ATF in here when I changed the pan gasket and stuff. So that's where we're at. I do feel better about changing the pan, you know, resealing the pan up and everything. I think that might have been leaking actually a little bit before. Anyways, always something. Then we got to chase down, it's got an oil leak still, which I'm pretty sure is the distributor gasket. And my power steering pump appears to be leaking a little bit, and also the steering box. But you know what else is new? Something's always got to leak. Anyway, so successful pan seal up, gasket swap, whatever you want to call it. Slowly but surely getting there. I'll keep you guys updated on, you know, if I figure out if the shift down or the shift cable is or the kickdown cable is a problem or not. But I think we're going to end this video off here, so I'll catch you guys later.